If you could spend a moment with some remarkable people and discover what their life sounds like, what would you ask? Welcome to Are We On Air? An audio encounter. I'm Arman, and each episode will feature one conversation with an inspiring friend of mine who will share with us the soundtrack to their life. Guten Tag, Icke here, and welcome back to another episode of Are We On Air? As you might remember, we did a very fun and exhausting kiosk pop-up for 2 weeks last year, September, during Berlin's Gallery Weekend. And, well, it's May, and we've just missed this year's Gallery Weekend. But do not worry, we are currently in preparations to hopefully, fingers crossed, do not one, but maybe 2 kiosk pop-ups this summer. The cities are still TBC, but I will share it with you as soon as possible here and on our Instagram channel. And if any sponsors are listening, give us a shout out. Anyway, one of our guests from our last pop-up was and is this week's guest, which is the electronic superstar. That is the artist and producer Paul KALKBRENNER. Paul and I met many years ago in New York City at the Standard East Village, well, for an interview, but for the Standard Culture website back then, which was followed by a wonderful sold-out show at Webster Hall and a free ride that I hitched on their tour bus with a little pit stop in downtown New York at the club. However, that interview blossomed into a wonderful friendship between me, him, and his manager, Marcus. And fast forward to many gigs and tours in hotels around the world later, we got to sit down once more, but this time in Berlin at our kiosk. You will hear the streets and sounds and noises of the city, which I thought was very appropriate given that Paul not only recorded a masterpiece of a movie soundtrack with Berlin Calling back then, but also recorded the sounds of the city and transformed them into music. Paul has been in the club and techno scene for more than 20-ish years and had his biggest, probably commercial breakthrough in 2007 when he was starring in a movie called Berlin Calling, which was based on a DJ going wild and getting lost. However, this movie captured the zeitgeist of a city, and the places you see in it don't even exist anymore. And the soundtrack manifested it into popular culture. But we also dived into Paul's upbringing in East Germany and what it was like, and what influenced him and got him from his humble beginnings all the way to performing in front of 500,000 people at the Brandenburger Gate during the 25th anniversary of the wall coming down. But we also touched on our shared love for vintage cars. And here a quick note, Paul has an insanely beautiful car collection, and he actually arrived in his beautiful Maserati and parked it right in front of the kiosk. While we were doing the interview, people stopped by, took pictures, and had a big smile on their face. And then we went for a schnitzel after the interview. So, if you haven't already, then find us on Instagram at Are We On Air, and all the wonderful interviews and playlists of all of our guests are, as always, available on our Spotify and Apple channels and on areweonair.com. Alrighty, los geht's! So, welcome to Are We On Air, Paul KALKBRENNER.
Was, English?
English.
Ach du Scheiße. Oh man, alright, English?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Here, welcome Berlin.
Welcome.
in this, we would be German, would be the Butze.
I think it's okay if we throw some German words in here and there. Well, Paulchen, we know each other now for quite some time. I think we first met in New York City when you were touring in the US.
Yeah, we know each other for quite some years and haven't seen each other for quite some years. Right?
Last time was in Los Angeles. when you were
Like 3 years ago.
3 years ago, 2017. Yeah.
No, 18. Oh, what? No, it was 17. 4 years ago almost. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And
2 years of it. Lockdown.
Yeah, all gone down the drain. So how was the past year?
No, yeah. Last month, it started like slowly, for some friends I have more in the DJ business, started much bigger for them than for, my thing with a big stage. A lot of things who were like pushed to end of August and then September got then also canceled. So I kind of ended up with like 7 shows until last week for the summer. So that's something, but also not very far away from worst case scenario, no shows at all. So not so far away from that as well.
That's got to be tricky when you reach that size that you can't do small club gigs.
And I think also some of them who then pushed, I think got also then cancelled officially because of Corona measures, but there may have been also other reasons for that. So we never know. A lot of politics, Italy, they just closed everything till the end of the year.
Again.
No, it's burned somewhere.
We're live here unter den Linden outside of a kiosk, so we hear the street sounds of Berlin in the background, which you should record.
Seems to be a very big fire.
Yeah, what's going on? You should record this and turn this into a track.
No, I did with the S-Bahn already. That's kind of the same interval. Do.
Every time I hear this sound of the train.
Yeah, they wanted to change it here like a couple of years ago, and they did for like a couple of days or weeks, and then the Berliners asked to have this back. So.
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, every time I hear this, the train sounds of Berlin, I think of you, of that track. Like, for me, that's Berlin. Yeah, well done. You should trademark that. So, Are We On Air is basically my little interview series where I interview the cultural greats of today about the soundtrack to their life.
Ooh.
And, I have a couple of questions to kind of create a timeline of your life, but through a couple of songs. But thinking of that scene in Berlin Calling, do you remember what was on repeat on your first Walkman, on your first Discman, and on your first
How do you have things on repeat on a Walkman? My Walkman had a cassette. So what got rewinded a lot?
Yeah.
I wasn't a big rewinder to say.
Really?
Yeah. I had before the wall came down, East Germany, like a mono 1 speaker, like flat radio and cassette recorder where I had just some old cassettes from my parents where I was allowed to record. So it was a lot of half songs with like half of the end mod of it on it. So, but I also then later on had like a double cassette deck, and there I did with like pause and rewind the one, because there was all this techno rap 1990, like technotronic and stuff. Yeah. So there was a lot of this vocals over it, but at the end or at the beginning there were like some instrumental parts. Yeah. So I like extended them, with the pause, So it was. Is it recording? It's recording. Yeah. So. That was not a clean cut, It was like, but at least, that was the first.
Something the continues.
Then the first thing where I wanted to have it differently for myself. That was, I don't know, when the wall came down, I was like 13.
And what was on your first Discman? You remember that? When the CD came out?
No, CD was out, but we never had Discman. No, I never had a Discman. I mean, I started to play records since 1992 when I was like 14, 15. And since then, we especially did not care anymore about CDs, because CDs were on the market, and all this James Brown is that dun 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 dun. This 1991 commercial techno was all on CD already. So that's why we disliked it, especially since we went to hardwax, where the The black gold was sold.
Do you still collect records? Do you still buy records?
No.
Not even some slow jams, some jazz.
No, I'm not. I collect. I'm a big collector, but records not.
Well, you mentioned, you touched base that when you were 13 you started off, but what was the earliest significant musical memory that shaped you as an artist?
I would say I realized later on that I had, when I was a child, I had one record from Mike Oldfield, Queen Elizabeth, the QE2, that was 1980. Also came out on East German, actually the only label, Amiga.
Which we have some records here, Amiga.
And they had to do, because it was that contract, like once a month, like one takeover from the non-socialist foreign countries, when there was a Beatles or something else that was reserved already for that, So it was also already out in East Germany. And I had Modest P. Mussorgsky's picture of an exhibition in a version from Japanese synthesizer pioneer ISAO TOMITA. I heard the actual orchestra version years later. So I grew up with this shit, and especially there was always like a text at like a nice photo and a text about this album and the artist at the back of the record. That doesn't exist anymore like this. And it said both of ISAO TOMITA and Mike Oldfield that they do this alone. They do this layer by layer after each other, and somehow, I don't know if that's true, but somehow I think that always planted it in me that also, especially when it then started with techno, where, things are not so band related or stage band related anymore at all. Anyways, so that I could do this myself, somehow, with technique, because I played the trumpet in the music school as a kid, but I realized I was very bad as an also piano and guitar, very, 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 very bad as an instrumentalist of anything, and that's I would say that shaped, and I realized this later that I had especially those two records, especially Mike Oldfield said. Like he played, not synthesizers. He plays all this, I think, 23 instruments by himself, like a multi-instrumentalist. He does that all by himself, a one-man thing. So,
and he first released on Virgin Records when it came out.
I think yes. So I only had the 1980 Amiga.
Amiga, you still have that?
I do not have that anymore. It was my parents' records. So it was among my parents' records, who had some, I don't know, like 60 to 70 centimeters of records in the living room.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows you how important your parents' taste is. I mean, you're
also Ennio Morricone's Western music. We loved it very much.
We love Ennio Morricone, for sure.
Yeah.
how would you describe yourself with 3 songs that are not yours? Like 3 songs that define who you are.
Who are not mine.
Who are not yours.
I make music myself all my life long. So if something defines me as a musician, it's music I made myself, not other music. So I have to say, I'm not like after my childhood, especially when techno started, like at one point realized that especially when I decided not to DJ, what I did as a teenager, and want to play live my own music, then I realized in the moment you do not necessarily need to know about next week's records release. Because you play only your own music, it gives you actually the chance to leave that away. So my knowledge of techno records, it's quite well. It ends around 1996, like abruptly, you know.
Playing live, especially in those days, it was.
But it was not. It was not so early. It was not so early. I started to have the first real live act like 1999. I was like 22 years old. Before, I did not have the money for the equipment, enough songs to play an hour, you know. So that took until I was like 22 years old. That was 8 years after my entry into the techno scene, where I wanted to become a DJ or artist or whatever, you know. And I also hadn't earned a penny since then. And since even starting then, and it took another almost 10 years to earn actually some extra money. So the biggest thing I did in this career thing, what defines me the most, is that I stuck with it through many, many very unsuccessful years. So when I was young, so
Longevity.
Yeah. So when I turned like 22, that was 8 years of techno, and I hadn't earned a penny with it. Trying to. So until my parents saw me earning a couple of bucks years later, they still thought this must be just like a hobby, you know.
Was gescheitert. Okay, let's define it with 3 of tracks of yours. Who is Paul Kalkbrenner in 3 songs?
Yeah, but I was trying to think. So then when you want to define this, then it is the records I heard as a child. Especially, I had this theory also years ago, I said it also in interviews, that these records and this music, you are here until you're like 12, 13, until you start, oh, now I'm this and this, techno or punk or hip hop, where you just, because of the socialization of your group, of your peers, where you do this, and you hear this music then because you are in this social group. You dress this way, you talk this way, that's why you hear hip hop or rock and roll or techno. But before you thought I'm this and that, you know, until like, I don't know, 12 or 13, you have a much more open ear to that's why I would say the Morricone, the Mike Oldfield, and the damn ISAO TOMITA version from pictures of an exhibition from Modest P. Mussorgsky, where most defying music today is more actually classical music. If I listen to music, but also not very often.
Do you go see
more baroque, more baroque than later.
Do you go see some live classical here in Berlin? I mean, you have some great.
We were at just I think at the dawn of Corona. I think 2 years ago, Christmas concert at Philharmonie, 2019. Yeah. Mozart, potpourri, colorful potpourri of Mozart.
The greatest hits.
And that was the Kammer Orchestra, you know, the chamber orchestra, the smaller one, also very good. So it's not just the main orchestra.
I mean, Berlin has world-class music here, obviously. Well, you've been in the music business for, I guess, more than 30 years by now.
Now it's then 30 years.
As an artist or as a, I guess, label.
I mean, as I said, the first 10 years I wasn't. You know, I was not. Okay. So my appearance here, so that the people start hearing of me, is actually the year 2000 or so, you know, 99.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a lead way to
so
get to
I'm not one of the early. These guys are like 10 or 15 years older than I am, you know. So Sven and They did that. They did that in 1990, where I was like a 12-year-old boy in East Berlin, didn't know anything about it, so haven't heard of it yet.
But as an artist, how do you adapt to the times? Like, do you stick to your sound, or do you?
That's my main thing. That's why I'm able to adapt to the news, or also I am, differently than many rappers who lose their audience once they grow up or are 17. There's a huge chunk of my worldwide audience growing up with me, being older than I am. But there's also always, the last time for the album I played in Paris, it was amazing. It was only 18-year-olds. So that's also important. So I can adapt with sticking with my thing. That's my number one thing. It's also the most important thing to me as an artist, not to be the best paid or most successful or most famous. No, but that you are one of the few where there is a song running, which is new, and people say that must be him. Because it sounds like this, because many of, also you can say, take the recent years, artists who came a little bit from the underground and made it to the absolute top, playing with me on those big festivals. Like, it sounds like any other top 40 dance music from a big studio.
Come and go.
Yeah, also the sound, it very soon adapts to this, which, I don't know, those producers do. So that's the main thing, to continue to sound the way I always sounded, even though I just got better in sound. So. But the Graftal, this year's release, absolutely threw me back to, many people said, that's the Werner and Calling sound again, there it is. So it all exists still.
Longevity. Taking the train and just keep on going. Well, from all the gigs that you played over the years, which were probably hundreds, thousands or something. Was there like one that, we're just 500 meters from the Brandenburger tour here.
That was the biggest.
That was the biggest gig.
It was the biggest. 500,000 people. Says the promoter. Police says 350,000, but the promoter this time was the government, federal government. So usually I believe more the police numbers. This time the others. Yeah, that was the biggest, and it was the big day when 25 years of the wall came down. Yeah.
Was there another gig that really stuck with you?
Oh, so many. Just I played 2 weeks ago in Orange. Teatro Antique Orange, ein 2000 Jahre altes Amphitheater. So mit 20, so wie so eine Kuhle. 20 Meter hoch, die Wand dahinter und auch die Ränge. Vielleicht gar nicht mal groß, vielleicht für 8000 Leute, aber dann trotzdem die 20 Meter bis hoch. Also vor einer Wand von Leuten. Und diese Momente dann so hinten raus, das reicht dann schon wieder für ein ganzes Künstlerleben. Ne?
Wow, yeah. One track that stuck with you that you played in that amphitheater?
That was the moment. It was like the last 20 seconds of the last Arman. So, bang. Yeah. When they knew it's over in like 20 seconds, scream again. This is the last drop.
Play it. Play it again, Sam. I mean, you were in the studio, I guess, the past year and a half, right? I mean,
I was in the studio during the damn pandemic, yeah, of course. That it was direct result of it. So I made a lot of songs, but I'm not sure if I should like it since it's the direct following of having to stay home for so long.
But where do you find your, like when you're in a studio, for instance, in the past year when there was no outside influence or direct influence, where do you find inspiration to create new
it's
stuff?
always from inside. That's where we were left off. Until 1996, I decided not to listen to any techno anymore, to not be influenced.
But what
A DJ it's from inside. It is the best techno and the best albums I made when I didn't. I'm not so strict anymore, but during, let's say, Self or the Guten Tag album, I like strictly didn't listen to anything during the production process. You know, so especially when you listen to something good. If you are a writer and you're still young, when you write a book, a novel, big novel, should you read just before going to bed? Like the biggest writers like Tolstoy and Dostoevsky, should you read that before going to bed? No, you shouldn't. Because there's a chance that you pick up that much better stuff, you know, try to copy it.
But do you find like inspiration outside of music?
No, meanwhile, I'm so big that I can take just things, you know, when I find something little in the internet, or let's say with the NTO remix, Anto is his name. I hadn't heard of this guy. But all these remix requests are shown to me. I listen to it, and immediately I realized in this melody, this is absolutely made for me. So I touch it again and make something very big out of it. This is the biggest quality, that I listen to it and refuse most of it, but put my hand on it when I know that's it. That's maybe the 30 years of it.
Experience. Yeah. The great universe when it comes and kicks in. We just touched base on the past year, but how important is silence and solitude to creativity?
Yes. The silence is as important as the sound. I'm saying this for decades now.
So you are literally a hermit. I mean, you're at home most of the time. No, you're inside. You don't really socialize. You don't need the outside world in that sense.
I have a very big house, so a very big apartment, but I actually never need to leave. But I like to leave. My studio is in Lichtenberg. That's like almost 10 kilometers from here. And it's where I'm actually from, East Berlin. So here, this was the area of East Berlin where I sometimes went for a walk with my parents on Sundays. So maybe we went to eat here in one of the restaurants. Otherwise, I had nothing to do with this area. I'm from the working class area, from outside, from the hood. But I found a studio there, actually there, where I'm from.
What was it like? Like
great.
We're looking at the Amiga.
This was here, you believe it or not, like let's say on a regular autumn workday evening, after dark, you could hear the steps of people walking here. Wow. There were only like those army and police guys, because over there was the border, you know. Yeah. So not much.
But was it really as grey as the media tries to?
Exactly as those pictures look like. They don't lie. And this was Berlin, where everything East Germany, for all the people who are again in favor of socialism here, this is how Berlin looked like, where everything from East Germany was brought to, in favor of this capital here, where that made all the rest of East Germany suffer even more. Look to pictures from 1990 from Leipzig, where I'm born, or other cities. This looks like 1945.
It's funny, I saw this like documentary the other day about Potsdam, like right after the wall. I mean, it looked like another world, and now Potsdam, it's so beautiful and cleaned up. I mean, it's like,
that's what they said. It's gonna take 30 years, and now look here, almost there at the Schloss. At the Schloss, it's almost finished. Like at the end of the year, that's gonna be finished here. Yeah. Also, new subway here and everything was made.
30 years, damn. Have you recently? Well, it's Gallery Weekend here in Berlin, so I don't know if you go see a lot of art, but have you discovered anything recently? Like
No.
outside of music,
No.
movies,
No.
books.
No, books, yeah,
Art.
books. But this is not. If you want to call Goethe's reflections and life maximas like a discovery, but was for me a discovery, yeah, in the forms of aphorisms. That's very nice. The best one is now growing up. That you also just I'm paraphrasing that you only can get milder when you get older. That the young guys that you see no mistake happening, which you would have not done yourself as well. And stuff like this. And it shows that people have been always the same. This is 200 years old. It so applies to our life, and it will apply to the life of the people living in 200 years. That's why we still read Goethe, and many of today's authors we don't even read tomorrow anymore. So I have to say contemporary, there's not much to find. There's one very nice history book about Burgundy, Bart van Loo. I think he's Dutch. And it's originally, or he's from Flemish, from northern part of Belgium. And this is an amazing history book. Like even for people who are not into history, just very, very exciting to read it. Yeah. Bart van Loo, Burgundy. Because it was once a big Burgundy, right? Between like Germany and France, which disappeared then very quickly within like decades. But amazing. And it was a very much fine art, painting and stuff. Sculpturing was taken high in this. It was a duchess. It was not a kingdom.
Well, we don't collect art, but we collect beautiful cars.
Yeah. Are you a car collector too? Oh, I am.
If one car counts as a collection.
I mean, in East Germany, we had so much Trabi, you know?
Yeah. Especially just rolled up in the most beautiful olive green Maserati.
Not olive, my friend. This is a Verde Gemma. This is the Smaragd. This is the emerald green. Smaragd green. Oh,
Can we talk about that beautiful car we're looking at?
Yes, this is. I had this 7 years ago. Bought this in was just a chunk of carrosserie and like 3 cases of is it complete or nobody knew it wasn't complete, and it took me I think 4 years to even find somebody who would take it on to restore it.
Wow.
And now it's finished after another 2.5 years of restoration on high end. It's unbelievable. A 1969 Maserati Ghibli. It's everything that the main things you do while driving: steering, the gas and brake. It's so natural, you know. It's so, I can't even explain it. It's so the opposite of the iPhone, iPad swipe right ways world. Just the opposite of it. Just amazing.
Yeah, I also used to, my Fiat Spider drive with driver gloves, and I saw that you were wearing them.
I found them until like a month ago. I found them incredibly ridiculous.
But it makes sense.
Since I am for the rest, with black hoodie and streetwear, and actually not dressed for those leather gloves. But you do this one time and you never do it again without.
It's a game changer, especially with a wooden steering wheel.
So it's much nicer to touch the wooden steering with those leather gloves than touching with your hands the leather steering. So it's amazing.
Well, going back to the music. Boring.
Boring.
Well, you want to talk about some more cars?
That's fine.
I'm talking about your car.
That's fine. The thing is, this is my I use it as a daily driver. The thing is,
you have to use them as daily
exactly.
drivers.
This was like until 2-3 weeks ago, only like on Sunday when it's sunshine. It makes much more sense if you actually use it as a normal car.
Yeah.
Then it starts to make so much fun.
Yeah. And it thanks
man muss die Ehrfurcht, you know? Die muss man verlieren.
How do people react on the streets when they see
Everybody is smiling. Nobody here, even this is the city of where left-wing radicals make scratches in expensive cars, but not into this one. Maybe into a new Mercedes S-Class or BMW 7, but not in this one because everybody likes it. Yeah, everybody's so happy to see it.
I'm very happy. I can't wait.
And everybody's smiling in it. If you're a guy and you wanna get some attention in traffic with your car. Do not buy a new Lamborghini because everybody hates you with this car. Get a nice old-timer, nice vintage car.
Old little Fiat in LA, traffic is a nightmare. Nobody honks. Everyone lets you go first. You know,
It seems if we look at the car, it seems like that other participants in traffic care that this car gets forward well.
Exactly.
Gets forward well.
So I know. Not one honk in all these years. Everyone, look, even now people are looking, tourists walking by. I love it. And taking pictures.
Fantastic, yeah. My tip is always to get for the vintage cars. It's also one of the nicest, funniest German-English false friends, since we call them old-timers in German. They're not called old-timers in English.
What's your go-to falling in love or heartbreak song?
I have to remember, like from 30 years ago. I think back then we had this dance, you know, there was discotheque, and then the last 10 minutes they like 2 rounds of where you have to go to the girl and say, "Come on now," and be like, "Huggy, huggy." I think it was always Frankie Goes to Hollywood in this 7-minute version.
Make love your
Especially in the summer camp, where I was always in summer camp. This was like one of the socialist things here. It was one of the nice things. We were unthinkable today. The children are like 2 weeks and another 2 weeks, just some strangers when they're 6 years old, just going somewhere in the country.
Gonna send your kids to summer
Not
camp?
nobody would do this anymore. There's another safety and security thinking level these days. But back then,
The power of love.
I have to say that also one of the good things about East Germany was that the real criminals were all in jail. And I drove as a 7-year-old child with the S-Bahn and my trumpet because I had to go to the music school after school. Sometimes it was in the autumn and winter. It was already dark outside. So 2 Ostkreuz with the S-Bahn, switching trains, another 3 stations, then through a dark park to the damn music school. With 8 years or 7, nobody would send you to this. So it was different. Also
No mobile phones, nothing. Nothing to track where you are.
On top of that. So it was a little bit safer, I have to say.
2 more, baby, 2 more.
2 more questions.
Yeah.
All right.
What's the sexiest song?
Never cared about this. Probably the what was it? Lou Vega, Lil Louis. With the moaning.
French Kiss?
Yeah, French Kiss, who gets very slow. Usually I was never interested in this because this was always related to house music. I like especially the drumming and the beats programming more in these days, not back then days, techno as it was called, than in house music. So. Techno.
If your life would be a movie, that's our last question.
Yeah, Berlin Calling, no? as I see it right now here.
Yeah. What would play in the end credits? I guess it would be Berlin Calling. What track in particular? Or maybe it's a different track.
If my
life would be a movie,
which song would run at the end
credits? Yeah.
When the coffin is brought to the funeral. I hope they don't play Sky and Set at my funeral. I hope. It's like they say, we would never do that. And then auf vielfachen Wunsch zur Grablegung und dann geht's los. Bam, bim, bam, bam. Oh Gott.
In the nighttime, when the world is at its rest, you will find me in the place I know the best. Dancing, shouting, flying to the moon. Don't have to worry, 'cause I'll be come back soon. And we built up castles in the skies and in the sand. Design our own world, ain't nobody understand. I found myself alive in the palm of your hand. As long as we are flying, all this world ain't got no end. All this world ain't got no end.
Yeah, that's not nice. You cannot say. Do you think there is something worse? Because you spoke of galleries and museums. It's right here, the Nofretete or even Tutankhamun. Do you think that he and his soul, they did everything they could? They made like 100,000 people build a pyramid so that nobody finds him there in his chamber, and now he's here where like some tourists like just walk by him and say, "Oh, all right, that's who is it? Tutankhamun. Ah, look at this guy." So you're lying there in one of those museums. Could you think something worse happening to you?
Yeah.
Especially the old Egyptians, you know, they had so much, with the car and the bar, you know this, with how they thought about soul and stuff. It's the worst what could happen to you. That now you are in a German museum or somewhere in London, in some fine gallery, and just some 2021 people who will buy also some garbage at the shop at the end. Just look at you, while you took your entire lifetime to build that damn pyramid so that nobody finds you.
So it would be silence for your movie.
Definitely. Definitely.
By the way, what does it feel like having, I mean, I guess to the rest of your life, this strong association to Berlin Calling?
Oh, it's not that strong anymore, how people think. So when somebody comes up to me every 3 years and says, "How is it for you to be always just related to Sky and Send the movie?" I say, "I'm not. You are the first guy asking again after years now, since I made quite lots some stuff after. It's a long time. I mean, now when I see the movie, I realize that's a younger man. I was a daddy now of 2 kids, man. One is 6, just came to school. The other is 6 months. There you know what's going on.
I mean, also Berlin is not Berlin that you see in that movie, you know?
No,
I mean,
this is also, we were very lucky.
it was the end of an era.
It was an end of era 2007, and also the scene in the Bar 25 was the last. It was in October or like end of September, like right now, and it was the last like some sunshiny day. If that would not been sunshiny, because we shot there many scenes on that day by all the Bar 25 scenes, then that would not be that good. So we were lucky also with weather.
It must have been the last year, or maybe 2 years after.
It was 2007.
Yeah.
So also this Bar 25 thing, like kind of disappeared. Then
It was the last hurrah. Social media and iPhone killed the vibe.
Yeah, that's why it's good that you don't stick with the club where you're so afraid that somebody puts his new LiDAR scanner iPhone 12 or whatever they can do in the complete dark, you know. They do this with the scanner, like, you know, with how far everything is away from the lens. It's amazing. We got we needed bumpers for another car, a Monteverdi 74. So we went to another car just with this damn iPhone 12 and did this LiDAR scan and built the damn, what's called Stoßstange, the bumpers, the metal bumpers, and from that LiDAR scan. It's amazing.
It's here.
So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I just went somewhere else. I went to a thing where I'm not stressed. You know, huge summer festivals where I'm not stressed by the cell phones in the hands. You know, they often do the thing, the Feuerzeuge, the lighters back in the days.
And no one has lighters anymore. Everyone has an iPhone.
Just an iPhone. But sometimes it's really, sometimes when you see recordings from how stressed those young people are, you know, also they made some like measurements of like hormone levels and anything, like the last minutes when they're writing the post, and then until up to the moment they send the post. This is real negative stress for young people, for most of them. And you see this like ha, 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 to the camera, then immediately like having a completely different face expression. Oh my god! Hopefully this is somehow good and somebody sees it soon.
You don't have that. You don't deal with social media.
I don't see it. That's why I have to say I got weird a little bit. Back then I played in small clubs. Yeah. Now, sometimes when the party's just a bit smaller, not small, but so small that like, I don't know, 2,000 people that you can see into actual faces. That stresses me. It stresses me out. I would have to go through them. So I feel much better when it's super huge, but then it's like on stage, all safe, like there's nobody on stage, especially not on my show. And many DJs now making also this behind them, this half boiler room setup where like people are combing their hairs right beside you, like into the camera. Not with me. So sometimes when it's smaller and they have sold like VIP tickets, then they can be on the sides, but I'm getting really stressed by when people standing behind me. They have to be in front of me.
On that note, we're in front.
So now we go to eat over there.
Now we're going to go eat a schnitzel.
Yeah.
Paulchen,
yeah,
vielen Dank.
It was very nice. I hope there is something to schnipp-schnapp out.
Schnipp-schnapp. Schnippeli-schnapp.
All right. Is this for America?
This is for the world.
For the world. So then, goodbye to the world.
Thank you for tuning in this week. If you want to listen to the full playlist, visit areweonair.com or our Spotify channel. You can also find us on Instagram and on YouTube at areweonair. And a big thank you to my wonderful team at Studio Neu. I'm Arman, and I'll speak to you soon.